Greetings. You're listening to Rebels Remembered, featuring Caitlin DeFord and Kelsey DeFord.
Greetings, travelers across the galaxy. I am Caitlin.
I am Kelsey.
This is Rebels Remembered, and this week we are on Season 3, Episode 11, The Ghost of Geonosis. This episode aired January 7th, 2017. And side note, Rogue One was released a month before this episode aired. We'll get into that here later. Synopsis reads, after finding a missing Rebel team member, the Ghost crew discovers another surprise on Geonosis and works to conceal it from Imperial forces.
The battered Rebel helmets littering the cave are the same design in Return of the Jedi and Rogue One. They have Saw Gerrera's symbol seen in his tattered cape on Rogue One. So the Saw that we see in Rebels, I can't remember what Rebels Recon said. It's a couple of years prior to when Rogue One takes place, I believe.
Yeah, and the look of Saw is, you can definitely tell it's, I think it was Forrest Whitaker voicing him and played him in the movie, I believe.
Yeah.
It's basically him animated.
Yeah.
Like, they just took the live action and basically animated him. And he looks, I know Saw is a character that is in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And me and you both have not seen the episodes he was in. But I'm not sure. I believe he looks a little different than obviously, because
he's older and he's a lot younger being in Clone Wars, obviously. But yeah, I think going back to what you said earlier, is in my notes, both this episode, or episodes, you want to split them up, and Rogue One were being produced at the exact same time.
Right.
So I think Dave Filoni said it was no question to bring Forrest on, and he was more than happy to be Saul.
Yeah.
Be the voice of Saul.
And Forrest is I love him as an actor.
I love him as a person. He seems like a genuine, nice human being. Ezra's Scout Trooper helmet now has Sabine's redecor with a starbird and a Lothcat face. So it's nice to see Sabine, I guess. Don't know if she willingly took it. He handed over willingly. If she just took it and, needed I need a canvas to paint on.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that. Captain Brunson is named after the look development production coordinator Jessica Brunson, which I believe Captain Brunson is the African American skinned captain that we see. Which when I first watched this, I immediately thought of Captain Sloane from A New Dawn, but then I was like, no, it can't be her, you know. So yeah, this is actually Captain Brunson. Click-Clack is portrayed as a sympathetic Geonosian rather than seeing as a creepy insect alien. The drawing he draws, spoiler, is the Death Star, but everyone interprets it as something else.
Okay, before we get into our plot, so we've already mentioned one thing that stuck out to me, because I hadn't seen this episode in a while, but one thing that stuck out to me in this episode was Click-Clack drawing the Death Star in the dirt. Was something that just kept sticking out in my brain. So I don't have a name for this activity. Basically, it's just Star Wars Pictionary.
Okay.
So I'm going to draw a couple of things that are in this episode, and you're gonna have to guess what they are. Okay, the first one's not that bad. So.
Okay, looks like a pear shape. Easter egg. Oh, wow. Is that your version of a Death Star?
No.
What is it?
I'm trying to figure out what else is on it. Okay. That's my
attempt. 2 extra lines. Okay. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. I thought this would be easy. Now I'm worried.
Well, now you're gonna make me look like an idiot when you tell me what it is. I'm like, duh, I knew that. Oh my god. Is it the egg we see?
Yes,
okay.
It is the egg we see. So, your second one is...
Okay, we got another circle. And more circles. Okay, that's gotta be the Death Star.
Yes, that is the Death Star.
If you said no, I was about to throw that phone. Cause
Oh my gosh. Okay, this one's gonna be interesting.
Okay, looks like a person. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Is it Saw?
Yes, it's.
Okay.
That is sad. I
mean, it's not bad. It's not bad.
I swear I drew him better than that when I was practicing these today.
When I saw the big shoulders, for some reason, I was like, yeah, that's gotta be Saw.
Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of odd.
Okay.
I'm not prepared. And then it does this thing. Okay, so that's it that way. And then it does something.
The, oh crap. It's the thing that Sabine and Zeb use, the shield generator?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm actually surprised you got that, because that's pretty sad.
If you hadn't have drawn that, I wouldn't have known what it was, to be honest.
Like the blue
line.
shield, yeah. Okay, last one.
Another circle.
I know, circles are a thing, dude, for some reason. I'm struggling here.
It's the canisters, the gas canisters.
Yes. That's really sad. People could be laughing at
Hey, look,
me.
it's the Emperor.
It's the Emperor.
It's the Empire.
They didn't do their drawing of their symbol very well.
The guy in printing services messed up that one.
Badly.
I think you did pretty good. Your drawing skills were not that bad.
So you see where I practiced? I actually practiced them, I swear. Like you
what?
see, look how good Saul looks there. That looks
It does
nice.
look actually pretty good there.
Click clack is I was struggling with.
It's like, Saw's great. Click clack's falling apart.
Yeah.
Alright, just gonna get into some plot details here. Basically, Commander Sato and Organa tell the Ghost they have a new mission, and they're investigating the disappearance of these Geonosians, which is something that has been brought up several times, I believe, by this point. That the Geonosians are missing. They're not really being read on any sort of scanner that detects supposed to detect human life, so it's almost like the planet has just been gone. Like the people, the planet's still there, but the people on it are not there.
Right.
You know.
And then I think it was mentioned in the honorable ones, which Hera brings up here, is when that's where Zeb and Callus were around that area. She even mentions it again, like there was no signs of life there.
Yeah, but I think Organa is investigating it because it was probably in some report that it was just mentioned that, hey, we're not getting any life readings on this planet.
Yeah.
Knowing that, and I believe in the Rebels Recon episode, they mentioned that the Geonosians were the separatist tech people. Like, they were basically manufactured most or all of the weapons that the separatists used. Yes. And so if Organa has that knowledge, it's like, that seems fishy for those people to just kind of disappear, you know? So that's also a recurring thing that connects to Rogue One about it all connecting to the Death Star.
Yeah.
Stuff. So the Ghost Crew is looking to not only investigate the disappearance of Geonosians, but a rebel cell and their intel, because a rebel cell went down here to investigate, and they have not checked in. They have lost contact with them. Yeah. This is when it mentions that they're also looking for Saw Gerrera, who is leading the team and who was a legendary freedom fighter. I have not seen the Clone Wars episodes that Saw is featured in, so this is my own research that I've done. He appears in a 4-part arc in Season 5 of the Clone Wars, where, I don't want to misspeak, but I wrote his planet's name down. I thought I did. I believe it's Onderon is the name of the planet. And so, in this 4-part arc, you've got Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Rex, that are training his rebels at that time to fight the separatist leader of that planet. And so they're training them to take on the separatists. Whether or not that's a good idea, brilliant question, because unfortunately Saw loses his sister, and they pretty much lose that battle against the separatist, against that separatist leader, and because it becomes the Empire after that. And I think Henry Gilroy mentions that's something to keep in mind with Saw, and particularly in this episode, like, we don't really... He's a hard guy to root for.
Yes, very, very hard.
But Henry Gilroy mentions that he attempted to free his planet but lost. And this is a quote from Henry Gilroy. He says, after being beaten down so many times, at some point you'll do anything to win.
Okay, so that kind of puts in perspective of Saul and, like, why he's behaving this way throughout this episode.
Yeah, because if you know that the Geonosians were supporting the very people that killed your own sister and is not enslaved, but, you know, did some bad stuff for your people, your own homeworld, yeah, there's going to be, why should I rescue Click-Clack and this random Geonosian? Like, what is the point of that? So, very creepy catacombs, because these are bug-like creatures. They're sort of insect-like, where they've been able to dig tunnels. It's very extensive, elaborate kind of labyrinth. And we figure out that most of Saw's team is deceased, but we don't see their bodies.
Yeah,
we only see their helmets.
That was very odd to me. And also, why was he the only one that survived that?
Yeah, I don't know if the Jordekas just disintegrated them, or their battle droids disintegrated, but you would think there would be some sign of bodies.
Unless Click-Clack drug him off and buried him somewhere.
It could be possible, I guess. So Saw does emerge. He's now a scarred, hardened warrior, but he greets Rex warmly. Arriving at Geonosis, they find the planet is deserted like last time, except it wasn't because they run into Click-Clack. Sabine finds the source of the power source, which is a shield generator, I believe.
Yeah, and that's something that, spoiler alert, well, it's not really a spoiler, because that actually plays into the finale of this season, is that shield generator. And I had forgotten where they got it from, and it was in this episode.
I completely did too, and when I saw it activate with Zeb and Sabine using it, I was like, oh, I remember now.
Or they
kind of triggered something in my head.
It, yeah.
Zeb and Sabine are working to extract the shield generator, but they're having a hard time extracting the core, but also it raises the questions of why is this here in the first place?
It makes you ask that question. And I think Sabine says work faster, which is kind of like unnerving, like, what is this protecting?
Yeah, there's a lot of unnerving moments in this episode.
Yes, there's a lot of
Saw informs him that the Geonosian they have wiped out his team using the Separatist droids. Okay, but still he would think there would be some sort of body. But
yeah.
It's imperative that they find him. He's the key to knowing why the Empire eliminated the Geonosians and what they were building here. So sort of that's what's driving Saw in this episode and in Rogue One, as we see later in the Star Wars canon that it is. Yes, so Sabine and Rex try to move this core to the Ghost, but they're surrounded by battle droids. Again, talking about unnerving.
I remember this moment where, because I think they were informed from, I think Kanan tells Hera, like, there's battle droids, you need to be aware. And droidekas, and those are beasts, you know. And I love the part when Zeb turns around and he says, what are you talking about? All I see is a bunch of rocks. And I remember watching this and I was like, oh my gosh, they're all buried. And, like, Sabine rubs her hand over one and you're like, oh my, that's so unnerving. And after they decide to move the core for some reason.
Because they're asleep.
You know? Yeah, because they're sleeping, which is,
But yeah, just also unnerving to think that because when they first get on Geonosis, it's like a big sandstorm going on. And I'm like, how did Sabine and Zeb get to that for the first place without bumping into one of them? That was my first thought. Lucky, I guess. Like, at some point, was it just like, hey, there's a weird-looking hill we're walking over right now. That's kind of weird.
That's odd, yeah.
So they use the core's shield for protection, but it won't last long because they have to find who Ezra has affectionately named the alien Click-Clack. Which I think it's funny that Kanan has Ezra, even though he can't speak the language, try to communicate with.
Yeah, it's Clack. Like, this is Ezra's thing. He can communicate with all sort of creatures. So.
Make a connection with people and things. So Ezra finds Click-Clack, they struggle, and then he drops the remote. Saul blasts the device and approaches him saying, you're going to tell us what's been going on here to the frightened being.
And this is the first one that we actually get to see Saul and his element for the first time. Not element, but like how determined and the links he'll go to get any information. We don't we don't figure out later why he's behaving that way until he drops the thing that has his sister on it.
Yeah.
And Ezra has that conversation with Rex about, well, it's a little bit of, what's the word? Disdain for Geonosis anyway, because they helped technically kill his sister.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have that information yet. So right here, it's just like, oh, this guy's like rough and tough and is like, and I love how when he shoves Click-Clack against the wall, Ezra immediately looks at Kanan and Rex like, what is this guy's deal? Like,
yeah. Because I think, again, he's so different from Ezra in that he's not saying Ezra hasn't seen a lot, but he's seen a lot. Like Saw's seen a lot. And I think I wrote something that Freddie Prinze Jr. said about Saw is that it's interesting that this guy and his freedom fighters on Onderon were trained by Jedi and Rex.
Yes.
And somewhere along the way, he's turned away from those teachings. And I don't know if it's just disillusionment and like, hey, that didn't work so well.
Well, even later in the episode, I don't know if you caught it, even later in the episode when there's this whole argument, this entire two-parter about what to do with Click-Clack. Ezra very strongly wants to keep him there on his planet because when they find the egg, it's like, oh no, he needs to stay here to hatch his people. Saw's more like, no, I want to interrogate this guy, I want to find out what's going on. And there's this scene on the Ghost, I think it's in part 2, where Kanan's like, look, we already agreed, we're going to take it back to our base, and then you can interrogate him. And he has a line, sorry, that was a long way to get to this part. He has a line that says something about, well, I know how the Jedi, it doesn't work for me. Basically what he says.
Yeah.
Even though they're the ones that trained him, in a way.
In a way, yeah. So Click-Clack draws a circle in the dirt to describe to them. And the audience, I think, knows what it is. But, of course, it's one of those things where we might know, but the characters on screen do not know. Do not have this information.
They don't know. They never figure it out. First, they think it's this egg he's protecting. Because I made this connection. The egg looks like a Death Star.
Well, when you drew it, I thought it was the Death Star.
It has a little white, I'm going to call it a white mole. I'm not sure what it is. Right on the egg.
White circle.
It looks like the Death Star.
Yeah.
So I think that was more of a way of like, oh, it really is the egg. So they think it's the egg. Then they think it's the canisters. Like, guys, you're still wrong. But, again, they're not aware of what it actually means.
So we've got all these things going on where all of a sudden Click-Clack is now their friend. The droidectas have been deactivated, and that threat's gone. But now we always got the next threat, which is the Empire, is always on your tail there. They dispatch Ties to investigate what's happening on the surface. Click-Clack reveals he has an egg. And again, we have this whole thing about whether or not Click-Clack gets to go with them, go with Saw, or stay on the planet.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, while that's going on, we've got Hera flying the Ghost, now with Zeb and Sabine aboard with the shield generator, trying to get down hundreds of feet to reach where they are.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was crazy. And the animation, too, of that was... I thought it was pretty cool.
Especially when you see the lights illuminating the chasm. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So again, we have this agreement, which is repeated 3 times. All 3 times by Kanan. And I could feel the frustration in Freddie Prinze Jr. delivering that line for the last time. It's like, we've said this 3 times.
Yeah.
You're not getting it, dude.
Yeah.
What the agreement is that Click-Clack comes to Chopper Base for questioning, and then he's returned. Saw doesn't want that, so he threatens to destroy the egg unless he can take the Geonosis. This is where I was like, dude, the Empire is on your here. The Empire's almost here on your tail. You're wanting to kick everybody out, grab the alien, and hightail it in the Phantom?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you?
I think we know why his team got... He's not thinking.
Maybe.
Very rationally.
Maybe. I don't know.
And I love how... I totally forgot about this when he meets Hera. He's like, it's an honor to meet a Phoenix leader. I've heard all about, you. She's like, I've heard about you too. And you could see... There's kind of a little bit of, And then she's like, Kanan, can I talk to you for a minute? Like, uh-oh. Does she know him? And then she has this conversation with Kanan with like, dude, this guy is very reckless. And he the way he goes about things, which we've already seen, is not good.
I mean, it's not, I want to say for it's good or bad, but it's definitely It's almost like similar to how Cham was, but on a
Yes.
totally different level.
I agree with that.
At least Cham, you could kind of talk. There's no talking with this guy.
And why did
His mind's made up.
Why did he have to threaten the egg? Just to get them to cooperate?
I don't know. That was the part I was like.
And another thing, you're in an underground tunnel. Good luck finding the Phantom when it's backed up to the. See, that was another thing.
Yeah.
Dude, you're not even thinking this through.
Mm-hmm. We've got this really cool scene with rocket troopers. We've got Sabine flying her jetpack. That was really cool.
That was sick.
Yeah, I got Ezra's line like, it's like, well, they're in trouble now. It's really cool animation stuff going on. Finally, when they reach the underground, they find these poison gas canisters, evidence the Empire committed atrocities against the Geonosian people. The rebels were like, well, this'll work as evidence, I guess. And then Saw's like, well, we'll take these and I guess Click-Clack can remain here.
Are you going to say what So I'm an idiot, guys.
I'm an idiot,
said,
too.
let's get the canisters aboard. And my first thought was, how's it going to squeeze through that door?
I thought the same thing. I was like, what are you doing, Hera?
Then I realized they have magnetic locks on the bottom they can get.
They use those magnetic locks so much. We forgot about them.
I'm like, how is it going to work? Like, are they smaller than I'm thinking they are? Nope. They're going to... Okay. Like, I feel like an idiot there.
So Saw allows Click-Clack to remain. He's sort of touched by something Ezra says about he's just trying to protect his family. You know what it's like to lose someone. Sort of touches on that pulls on that cord.
Well, Rex starts it first, like, you know what it's like to lose family.
Yeah.
And I love the way...
it's Rex, yeah.
I love the way D. Baker says that line. Because he knows Saw. I mean, they're kind of, in a way, war buddies. So he knows him, he knows his past, he knows why he's acting the way he is. But even that doesn't get him. He's like, well, war is lost, and, and until Ezra says, then you're no better than the Empire.
Yeah.
And I think that's when they hit him. Probably the most.
It's almost like, hey, you're no better than the people that killed your sister.
Yeah.
Which I think probably, was the final in the coffin.
Yeah.
So he does allow Click-Clack to remain. He scurries off underground with the egg, which I guess luckily is a queen. I don't know any much about Geonosian biology, but it's like, well, that's convenient that...
Okay, so I know I asked you this question before, but what did you think about him surviving, and do you think there's other Geonosians underground?
They mentioned that, that maybe there's more survivors underground that were able to escape the gas, but it's hard for me to buy why even Click-Clack was alive.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about Star Wars tech, how it works in the world, but it's like, how can you go from, hey, there's no life here at all, to, hey, there's one guy that our scanners missed.
I didn't even think about that.
You know, I mean, going back to when Hera scanned the planet, there's literally no signs of life anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's like the being underground is affecting the sensors, but that's the part I was struggling for even Click-Clack to be there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like, you missed one. Oops.
I feel like Click-Clack was kind of there to, patch things up with Saw's past.
Yeah.
Essentially, because I think without that, I don't think he would have...
No.
Kind of not moved forward, but, kind of let some things go a little bit. But, so the Empire, tries to bury the rebels. The ghost shoots out of the cave, blasts the Imperial ship in two, but they lose the canisters in the process. But they have images to recruit more systems to the rebel cause, says Organa, and the Shield Corps will help the rebellion, and will be used, don't worry. And Saw was rescued, so the mission is a success. However, the mystery of what the Empire was building on Geonosis remains a mystery.
Duh. Like, we knew that they were going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because it's before Rogue One and all that stuff. And I wrote this down because I thought this nugget of wisdom was so... Whoever wrote this line deserves a raise. I love the way Kanan's phrases to Ezra, because Ezra's still like, you're welcome. Like, I'm kind of with Ezra. I'm like, I don't really like you. But Kanan says, you're going to find that not all of our allies share the same values as us.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really thought about that with the rebellion before. I thought they all cohesively work together, and they all work together as a team, and they all agree. And I didn't realize there's other allies, other rebels.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think he's part of Phoenix Squad. I don't think he is. I
Yeah.
think he's got his own little unit that are operating differently.
Yeah.
I never really thought about that.
I never really did either. I think that's the whole point of one of the points of bringing Saul in is to give us that knowledge that, hey, there's people out there that think differently. We've seen that before, but not with people that are politically aligned with the Empire, or not with people that are politically aligned either way, but that are neutral. We've seen that. But I do think that, hey, when you're wanting to bring back democracy to the galaxy, people are going to disagree, and you have to be okay with that. Even if you may not agree with his methods. He's on your side, for better or for worse. It could be like the Empire. No, you will agree with ABC.
That's true. That's
true.
But
This is the one way
I
to do it.
think, though, there's also a reason he's not with Phoenix Squadron. For one, he cannot take orders.
No.
And I think there's even that scene where he throws a fit, but flick-clack, for the second time or third time on the ship, and Rex says, "You're not in command here." I'm like, I think in his head, he's always in command. Like...
Yeah, and I think that comes back to just being his past of not really being in the military, more of being a ragtag group of doing everything on your own, and not having to take orders when you're the one making the orders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a little bit rough around the edges. That's an understatement, but yeah. What'd you rate this episode?
For part 1, I rated it 6 out of 10, but for part 2, I rated it 5 out of 10. For some reason. I liked part 1 better.
I believe I had those two backwards. I liked part 2, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Part 1 was alright, but it was mainly just setting up the story, and I liked more of the discussions. Even though I hated the part where Saul took the egg, I did like seeing some of those discussions that we talked about.
Okay.
About the differences between what he sees versus what Phoenix Squadron might see. Like, is there methods or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, 5 for part 1, 6 for part 2.
Okay, I can get behind that. So in total, probably 6 out of 10.
Yeah, and there's some really good animation in here. There's, like, the ghost going through the cavern. Mm-hmm. The explosion?
The explosions when they start throwing detonators and Ezra throws them up. Also the noise, the sounds... and everything.
Oh, the music. You brought that up.
The music, oh my gosh, like Kevin Kiner's score. And it's something, if you start to pay, like I challenge any Rebels fan, if you're doing a rewatch like us, just watch an episode and just pay attention to the music. Because it's something that you don't really think about in movies or TV.
Yeah.
But there are subtle moments in here where I was like, wow, this music, it sounds mysterious, it sounds ethereal, it has, but also it can, Kevin Kiner can just do all the things. Action, it's such beautiful music.
It's like playing emotions, but with music.
Yeah, it really is. It really is, and yeah. Oh, one thing I was going to mention is, I don't know how much time we have, we can cut this out, but I want to talk to you about it. So this was my first introduction to Saul. Mm-hmm. I never heard of him. I think I've heard of him when Rogue One was coming out. People are like, oh, Saul's in the movie. He's in Clone Wars. I'm like, I haven't seen Clone Wars. So this is my first introduction to this character. And I did not like him, unfortunately. But again, I'm seeing a hardened version. I'm not seeing the Clone Wars character. I'm sure he's definitely changed from point A to point B to point C. But interestingly enough, going back to he's in Clone Wars, but then Rogue One comes out. They modeled him after Forrest Whitaker's character specifically for this episode. It brings the question, and I think we brought this up on other episodes of Star Wars as a brand. Mm-hmm. It is a brand. People will not. They don't like when you say that because it just means it's making a profit. But let's be real. Most media, that's the main goal, is to make a profit. So it's a brand, and I think this is when Disney specifically started trying to tie everything together. And there can be problems with that. So it begs the question, I'm trying to be nice about it, I'm sorry. Was this episode written to give more in-depth to the Geonosians or Saul, or was it specifically written just because they wanted to tie it to Rogue One? Like, I think that's an important question to ask.
I mean, and it's not really asked, and for whatever reason, I mean, probably one of the big reasons is Star Wars, unfortunately, some of the fandom is so toxic that you can't really have an opinion.
You can't.
And but that's an important question to ask. So there are some people who believe, some fans are like, oh, it's connected to this. Great, it's so awesome that we get to be brought in and be connected to Rogue One. Have Rebels connected to Rogue One. My issue with it is, like, if it's an Easter egg thing, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Like, General Dodonna is mentioned in an episode of Rebels. But the entire episode is not focused on Dodonna.
Yeah.
That's my difference. Like, if it's the whole episode is surrounding to connect to something else, when it's not that, it's Rebels, it's not Rogue One, it's not supposed to be Clone Wars, it's supposed to be something of its own, that's when I have issue with it. If it's just an Easter egg, like Saw's name is mentioned before this episode, and I can't remember what episode it's in.
Yeah.
I think it's Honorable Ones. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with Easter eggs, I'm fine with connecting things. But when it becomes the whole plot, that's when I have issues.
And we already mentioned at the top of the podcast here, this episode aired in a month after Rogue One.
Yeah.
Which, again, it makes me wonder if, who knows, maybe the executives of Disney came in and said, we need an episode about Saw, or we need an episode about Rogue One. Can you make an episode tied to Rogue One? I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I do wonder if that's what happened.
I mean, we hear about executive meddling all the time, but not so much in some of the things of Star Wars. Unless you want people saying it's woke or, whatever.
Yeah.
With some executives, not going to mention any names, but we never really hear that, oh, did executives tell you this to tie it to the brand? Like, for example, was this episode made to get people to go see Rogue One?
Yeah.
That's the whole question. Was the later Mandalorian stuff made just so people watch The Mandalorian? And the end goal is to make a buck.
Make more money,
so, I like this episode specifically because it showed the differences. It's not my favorite because, again,
it's too drawn out.
Yeah. If this was one part,
I don't think I have a problem with it as much as I do.
No. But we went from Click Clack's the problem to now the Empire's the problem, now Saw's the problem. And it was just like one domino falling. Well, not really dominoes, but just like, how do I say this? Obstacles, I guess.
Yeah. Like, how long are we gonna stay here on Geonosis? Like, I want to get off of it. I don't ever want to be back. Sorry.